we live in the studio? Okay, the final stretch. We're going to go over 3 single leg moves, coaching them in succession. Then, depending on how we're doing time-wise, we'll go for program design, and then I will lead you unto the wild. Before we go to that, any questions about anything leading up to this point with some of the reaching and pulling? Nothing. Cool. You guys know, oh, that's awesome. What shoot for? All right. With the lunge, there's a single leg squatish variation, and there's a single leg hinges variation that we're going to go over. The principles are the same. The only thing that's different is we're eliminating the base of support. We're making it smaller and smaller. So the lunge. This is half kneeling. I'm keeping half kneeling stuff on the back leg. On the front leg, it's a squat. And I come up. That's what we're shooting for with that. So, the lunge archetype. Lucy. My outstanding mom. Take it easy, stay a while. So, I like to start from the bottom up a lot of times with this, if they can tolerate that. Sometimes people with knee pain can't, so then I start top down. Everything's the same. Back pocket tuck. Exhale, drop the rib cage. I want to make sure I got whole foot contact. With a little bit of emphasis on the heel. The knee is shooting a little bit forward, but it's centered over the foot. I want Lucy to push through her front leg. Come on up. Okay, perfect. We should get a lot of quad, a lot of butt. Then I want her to need to go straight down and come up. Here's what I don't want. I don't want that to finish, that's for sure. Thank you. I wasn't even thinking that looked good. I don't want that. Fix back pocket tuck, oftentimes we'll get that. Another thing that people will do is they'll let this hip flex way forward.
Oh.
Yeah, you see that all the time. Okay? What Lucy did to compensate for that was she lost putting weight on the front side leg, and she just reverted back this way. Maybe, just maybe, the depth is too much for her to handle at this point. Aim for the foam roller. Boom. Simple fix. And it works pretty slick. It works pretty slick. Okay? Or maybe I'll do something anterior low so they get a little bit more abs. So that helps reinforce the pelvic position. That's another thing. Yes, thank you. As people go down, heel raises up. They'll push through that. Simply just cueing heel contact. Make sure you're pushing through the front heel, or even come up. I'll shove them more forward this way. Go straight down. Take a knee. Doing that, so shifting more of their weight forward, another easy way to fix that. But those are a lot of the common errors that we'll see with the split squat.
And the shove forward as well.
Yeah, I don't want that
being
either.
able to.
Yeah. And that's where, like, using the foam roller, using just a small thing to hit or aim for, works wonders because you can control where the hip's going to go. Progressions. The split stance low cable row. This is money. It's also money in pulling variation. I don't know if you guys mess with this. If you want to get a lot of compliments on your glute med, I know I do. That's money. I'll show you guys that. We'll look at that as a group because I think that's a great starting position to both teach pulling as well as this. Supported split squat. That can be in a PT gym, just hanging on the parallel bars doing this. That can be hanging on to a TRX. It can be anything where they're holding on to something. Great variation. What should be next, darn it, unsupported split squat, which is what Lucy just did. Reverse lunge. I usually go with that next. That way we're making the movement a little bit more dynamic. It's a little bit easier to control backwards than it is forwards because what I have to do is I have to decelerate forwards because otherwise I'm going to be doing this, right? I have to be able to step forward, decelerate enough so I take the landing in the forward lunge and then do the movement as I come back. That was poor hand strategy. There we go. Right? So reverse lunge, rear foot elevated split squat, typically. There's a way to load that even further. Then go forward lunge and then walking. So the thing is get them to do essentially dynamic half kneeling, then get them moving in various directions. You do that, should be in business. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on lunging? Yeah? Cool. We'll go over that. Single leg squat. All right. So the key difference, I would consider a step up and a single leg squat off the box or even a pistol squat the same thing but along a continuum. What do you guys think the difference is between these two? And the arrows are kind of a giveaway. No thoughts? It's late. I'm still juiced up as all hell, though.
Rotation.
Yeah, it just challenges the rotation in a different way.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. The amount of... Go ahead.
No. So, if you're narrow, would you want to do that foot forward? No, foot back to open up the pelvis. No, foot forward to open up. Right? So if you're narrow, you want foot forward?
Well, ideally, by the time someone gets to this, they should have all of those options available.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. The difference between these two is the relative orientation of what I'm doing in these, and we haven't talked much about asymmetrical stuff here because most everyone was narrow. And that's life. That's mostly what you're going to see. Not narrows, not wides. But what I'm doing is if I have someone who's asymmetrical at the pelvis, so narrow IPA on the left, wide IPA on the right, what I'm doing is I go from a step up to a single leg squat is I'm slowly progressing them to this. I'm slowly driving more infrapubic angle on the left to open up. So in a step up, go ahead, stand up. Okay? As I come up, hopefully not that, but what should happen is I'm getting this to drive, not here, but to maybe center or a little bit beyond that. As I drive this leg forward, and say like a single leg squat off the box, in order for me to do that, I have to shift this part of the hip way, way back, which is going to get me a lot more adductor. So you got someone who's like a super good athlete, you can't get them shaken on some of the lower level things. More often than not you will, but someone who's like really, really legit, maybe that's your terminal, or maybe that's your first or second move to help open up this for them. Make sense? So the degree of difficulty depends on how far I'm shifting back into the hip, how far I'm posteriorly orienting or rotating, depending on who we're talking about, the stance side, the side that we are working on. Can you dig that? That kind of sort of makes sense? So that's why this is much easier than this. Or if I want to do that, I can make it easier by going here. And it's still more challenging than, say, step up. Y'all see that? So, archetypes. Seems familiar, right? Drop rib cage. Go tuck yourself, back pocket tuck. Whole foot contact, it's the squat, guys. It's the exact same thing. I'm shooting the knee forward a little bit. The only thing that's different is I'm doing it on one leg. All right? So if we do, try your single leg squat. I do Lucy's programming, and I was going like a super low box, because like a lot of times that's what I'll do, like just very little shooting the knee forward single leg, and I programmed 10 for Lucy. She'll talk to me for a week. But what I want, everything's the same. I want the knee centered over the foot, back pocket tuck. And you can see that's very tough for Lucy. All right, that's probably too high. Okay, challenge accepted now. I need this hip to come a little bit more forward. There you go. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll shoot them that way, but she is still getting relative this. But you can see as she fatigues, maybe you can see this from, go ahead and put this aside. Facing that way. Yeah, I want your legs smoked. Watch what happens here. You can already kind of see it. She's trying, so keep reaching that leg forward. But you can see, like as she starts to get tired, this is coming back. So what she's doing, instead of keeping this, she's going there. So she's not getting that full shift over to the left hip.
So you want the leg that's pointing forward to be rotated forward.
You can do it off a plate, like a 45-foot plate.
Yeah.
Okay, versus trying to like keep them behind.
I go like 2 to 4 inch steps with my people,
Yeah.
and a lot of them can get that.
Yeah.
It's like 2 to 4 inches. I'll start them here, slowly work them so they're shifting forward this way. As long as they can keep the knee centered, life's good.
And assisted too off TRX, really focusing on the hip.
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah, in fact, I did that. I worked with some of Lucy's clients. We did that with one of her clients because he was complaining of knee pain anytime he would go into single leg. And what he was ended up doing was something like this. So what I had to do with hang on to a TRX, we literally did. It was off of 45, and he did that. He's like, well, I feel nothing. It's like, well, I understand you don't feel nothing, but when we go to something more challenging, you are not getting into a good position, you get knee pain. So like, let's get you super good at this, and then we can add complexity to that.
And tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's single leg squat archetype. Variations, step up. It's usually where I start people. I'll start with the foot on there statically. If you want to make it more challenging, throw a little forward translation, make it more dynamic. You can go to I didn't write this, but you can go to a sprinter step up. You want to get terminal hip extension on this side? What's that look like? Looks like this, doesn't it? The same thing. Right? It's just greater complexity, another context that we do that. If you're feeling really frisky, you can even go with a cross connect. That way we get just a little bit more abs, we throw a little bit of rotation in the mix. Maybe I have someone who, in order to rotate, I have to do that reach across on this side for my horizontal abduction. Bam, done. Single leg squat, toolbox. I rarely program that because most people just struggle here till death do they part. But it's just, I'm having to create that shift without having the benefit of a drop floor underneath me. Pistol squat, good luck, we're probably not going to do that today. Except Lucy, now can do both sides. So questions about single leg squats? Nada? Or you can do that variation. It's a good one too. Single leg squat off of a piece of wood. It's my favorite. All right, single leg hinge. It's the hinge pattern, right? Everything is the same. I'm creating a posterior weight shift backwards to load the glutes and the hamstrings. So drop rib cage, whole foot contact, the fold at the hip, all of that's the exact same. Okay? What I use. Split RDL might be my new favorite thing. I've been doing a crap ton of that. So why don't we go ahead and show that first. You got that? I will coach you through. So what I'm going to do with this is, goal with this activity is to work the front leg back on the tippy. All right. You're going to do a back pocket tuck. I want you to push the hips back and you're going to reach down like so. So I'm going at about 90 degrees flexion so we get that posterior shift. You feel a little bit of something back here. Get up nice and tall. Hips are going to go forward. That's it. So it's the same thing as we were doing with the hinge. Pull back, hips forward. Pull back, hips forward. All right? Make it more challenging. Go ahead and lift the leg. There it is. Come back up. And then really reach it back if you want to go single leg RDL. One thing you got to watch on the single leg RDL is a lot of people will do that. All right? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just put my hand here and say, see if you can push that. Give them a little bit of support here, and then just see if we can get that action there. That's one thing to do. Or maybe it's just, that's too complicated of a movement. Keep them here, because then they're really driving shift in that context. All right? Questions about single leg RDL? Very good. Single leg hinge. That's That's all ball till we fall?
So the 2 arm is before the 1 arm?
Yes. Great question. I think you're
Yeah.
probably, the question was probably, why is that?
Well, I'm trying to make sure I'm picturing it.
Yeah. So think about where this fits in terms of goals, why I'm using this activity. The goal isn't to overload the lower extremities. We're using this more than likely as a supplementary exercise. And the reason why the 1 arm is more challenging than the 2 arm is because I'm allowing for more degrees of freedom at the thorax and hip. Whereas with 2 arm,
There's weights down.
I got weights evening me out.
Right, and it's going down.
Yeah. So that would be why I would program that before I would the single arm. Although I would even say too, rarely do I program this because a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm going split,
And then lifting the...
supported single leg RDL, like the exact progression that Lucy went through. All right. So what I'm thinking is, let's see if we can go. We'll go 4 songs. I'm going to try to go to 4:15 to just work on these. Okay. We'll finish up the program design. Be done. Welcome. We can stay obviously a little bit if you have any questions. That's totally fine. Because like I said, I know. All right. Let's go. 4 songs. See what we can do.
Deuces.